What's up, fam? Welcome to our home. I am Dr. D. This is my beautiful wife,
Shontae.
and we are the Smiths. This is Rich or Poor Marriage Podcast, where we are contributing to the health and wealth of marriages.
Yes.
It's been a minute, so guess what? We are happy to see you. If you're new to the podcast, hit that subscribe, hit that like, hit that share. We welcome you to our family.
Yes. Welcome.
So during the first season, we talked about a number of different things. And one of the things, something that was requested, was that we actually go back to the beginning, right? And when I say go back to the beginning, I mean that we actually talk about the foundation of marriage, right? And so marriage is a union, but that union is built on a covenant.
Yes.
And most people don't understand what covenant is. And I think that is very important that before you enter into your vows of marriage, that you should know what a covenant is. So, when we were discussing this particular podcast, you were like, well, sweetie, let's talk about vows first. And I'm like, nah, I don't want to talk about vows first. I want to talk about covenant first, because if you don't understand covenant, the vows will not mean anything to you.
So true.
So we're going to jump this off talking about covenant, right?
Sounds good. See, that's why you need a man that's going to lead you.
You ready, sweetie?
I'm ready.
You ready?
I'm ready.
DJ, drop that beat.
Boop, boop, boop.
So most of the time when people enter into a relationship, right, and they prepare for marriage, they get excited because they think they're ready for marriage. And so the thought life is we're going to take our relationship to the next level. Right? We're going to go from dating, girlfriend and boyfriend, quote unquote, into a marriage. Mm-hmm. So we go from girlfriend and boyfriend to fiance and fiance. And then we walk the aisle, we say our vows, and we leave a married couple. Right? And so what happens is most people don't understand that when they stand before God and before that minister or preacher or pastor or whoever is conducting the ceremony, as well as in front of family and friends, a multitude of witnesses, what they're actually doing is entering into a covenant.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Most people see marriage as a contract. And there's a difference between a contract and a covenant.
Yes, absolutely.
Because a contract, you can always find a loophole to get out of your contract. But marriage is supposed to be forever.
Forever.
The vows end till death do us part.
Yes.
So it's supposed to be something that's forever, right? And so with a contract, there's typically limited liability, meaning that if you don't fulfill a portion of this contract, I have an out. Whereas a covenant, there's unlimited liability, which means that I could fall short in some areas, but because I committed to you before God, I'm still bound by my commitment. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
And so when you think about covenant, it's important to understand that it's not just a covenant between a man and a woman, but it's a covenant between a man, a woman, and God,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so as I was thinking about covenant and what it means to enter into a covenant, right? And understanding that it's more than just you and I exchanging vows, but we are pledging, quote unquote, our love to one another forever. We're doing it in front of a crowd of people, but the most important witness to our exchange of vows is God.
Is God. Yes.
Right?
The most important.
Because he's more than just a witness. He becomes the center of the vows we exchange. So when I say that I take you to be my bride, right? I'm saying that to you, but I'm also speaking those vows to God.
Right.
I'm saying to him, Father, this is the woman I have chosen to be my wife for eternity. And I'm making you aware of it because your word says that what God has joined together, let no man put asunder. Does that make sense? Because you're awfully quiet over there. Are you going to put this away?
Really, I'm because I'm taking in what you are saying.
What do you think? So, what? All right. So we've had the opportunity, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're coming up on 22 years of marriage this year.
Yes, 22 years.
And in our 22 years of marriage, we've had, couples come to us from time to time, right? Not in what would be considered not a good place, for many different issues.
Right.
And so anytime we sit down and talk about marriage to a couple who is going through some things, or we've also had the opportunity to do premarital counseling where we had the opportunity to talk to two people who were engaged to be married. The first thing we start the conversation off with is covenant.
Covenant.
Right? Now, when we're talking about covenant, it's important to understand for both that man and woman to understand what they're going into, right? And we often say that marriage is a covenant. That means you're making a covenant with one another. But from my perspective, it's a covenant with God. And because I honor my covenant with God more than I honor my covenant with you, you don't have a reason to worry about my covenant with you because I honor my covenant with God.
Absolutely.
And do you feel the same way?
I feel the same way. I remember when I used to have some insecurities at times. And I guess when you let the enemy creep in sometimes, and sometimes it just be us. And you, and I was feeling a certain kind of way. And you said, well, I didn't have to worry about anything as long as your focus is on God. I don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to I didn't have to worry about you doing something that you didn't have no.
I mean, what I said was you didn't have to worry about my faithfulness. You didn't have to worry about my fidelity. You didn't have to worry about me coming home. You didn't have to worry about me being a father to my children. You didn't have to worry about me loving you and caring on you and being a provider. You didn't have to worry about none of that thing, none of those things that people often worry about in a marriage, because not only did I commit to you when I said my vows, but
made a commitment to the Father. So,
and that was important to me. Yeah,
and I can say that, since the almost 22 years that we have been married, we first of all, we entered in and we were both saved. We were both living a walking with the Lord when we first, because that's important as well, that we both were equally yoked when we came into the marriage, right? And so when we came into the marriage, we knew that we were going to be committed to one another. We knew that our commitment to God was important. And so that was one of the things that I always knew, that you loved the Lord and that you desired to do right. Not only in God's sight, but in my sight. So you just wanted to do things right. And I can appreciate the fact that you wanted to do things right. But that also was mainly based on the fact that you desired to please the Father. So I didn't have to worry about those things. So that sort of made me feel a little bit more comfortable, because I'm like, listen, he looked like he on a straight and narrow, right? But when you look like you reared off to another way, then that's need for me. That may be need for me to be concerned, because you don't look like you used to look initially. And I mean, look like you used to look. I'm not saying that you look different. I'm saying if I thought you look different, because you may have reared to the right or to the left, because you're not walking with Christ like you used to. But I know, because of the covenant you have with me and you have the covenant that you have with the Father, that it's important that you be committed to the marriage.
Yeah. So that is exactly what I wanted you to feel. Like, it was important to me, because early on, if we're sitting down and we're sharing our life with the people, right? Early on, there were times where you felt a bit insecure, and you felt, there were questions about, can I really trust this guy? Even though, during our courting relationship, I had never really given you a reason to distrust me, but there were past experiences that sometimes could play a role in the thought process, right? And anytime people come together in a marriage, we have to understand that there are past relationships that play a role in the way that person comes into the marriage.
Right.
We have a friend that says the terminology she uses is, when you come into a marriage and someone does something to maybe make you feel insecure, you charge them a trust tax, right? Meaning that you charge them a tax because of your experience with someone else.
Right.
And because you weren't able to trust someone else, now you bring that into the relationship, and your relationship is based on mistrust or distrust because of your past experiences. And so because you're charging someone a trust tax, they have to get beyond that barrier to get to a point where you trust them or they trust you.
Yeah, but I can't really say that I had like major issues with not trusting you. Yeah, I used to roam every now and again, but I can't say that I had like major problems with you, like with not trusting you. I know you don't like when I say that.
I don't care, because we got two different perspectives about that, but it's all good. It's 22 years.
Yes.
So,
22 years.
The funny thing is, so since I brought it up, fellas, women be tripping sometimes, right? And I'll say sometimes, not all women, but not all the time. Because it's easy for a woman to say, oh, he's cute.
First of
But
all, I don't
men
say that.
don't, we can't do that.
I don't say that.
I'm not saying you do. I'm just saying in general, we don't get the same courtesy. Because in the back of your mind, you thinking like, oh, why he checking her out? He must like her.
No, let me just, okay. So I recall.
So I'm going to let you go ahead.
Okay.
But then we got to eventually work our way back to covenant.
We're going to work it back. We're going to work it back. So I remember a time we was in a car, and ladies, we can be, with our man, and we see a girl, right? And she look cute, she popping, and we already seen her 2 miles out. And so we are already on the ready, waiting for him to even look to the left or to the right. Because I done already seen her. I done already spot her, right? And so I'm looking straight. She on this side. And then I see your eye roam a little bit.
Okay. But why did I look?
I have no idea.
You don't have an idea?
Well, I'm sure because she was cute. I know why you looked.
So why?
You looked because she looked cute.
And what else?
And because
I already told you.
You already told me what?
I will tell you.
Oh, you saw she looked like somebody you knew.
No, not that. I would say that I'm like, okay, I like the way she hooked that up. I wonder how Shontae would look in something like that. And I make mental notes. So if I see something that I think looks nice, and I think Shontae might look nice in that, I'll make a mental note. So when I'm out and I'm shopping, I can pick something up for you that's nice. Now, I shop for you, right? Don't I shop for you from time to time?
Yes, you do.
Okay. And when I bring stuff in the home, right, does it?
It's nice. Yes.
Okay. All right. Nice. So let's just
you
be
keeping
clear.
up with the trends.
Let's just be clear. So I do like to look at
street.
I like
years
fashion,
ago. You do.
I like fashion.
And that
so
was
I'll tell
years
you.
ago. That was years ago.
Yeah.
So, but I can say that was some of my insecurities, though. I mean, I have no problem with saying that.
Yeah, but every time you say it, you gotta be like, "Cause your eye used to roam."
Cause it did used to roam.
Man, please, come on.
I'm not making up a roaming eye.
Oh Lord Jesus.
I'm not making it up. But your face be like Flint now.
That's because I see them 2 miles away just like you now.
And you see 2 miles away. Yeah, you look 2 miles away. Mm-hmm.
My far sight is better than yours.
You 2 miles away, and you like
my eyesight, my long distance eyesight is better. Nah,
well,
I'm just playing.
It doesn't even.
I'm just joking, sweetie. I'm just picking with you. I like to do that from time to time. Cause I love you, baby.
Anyway, let's get back to covenant.
Yeah, so when we talk about covenant, the whole reason we got to that is because we were talking about, people bring different things into marriage, right? And when you don't fully understand that you're entering into a covenant, you'll treat it like a contract.
You will.
And when something goes wrong,
you're ready to break it.
You're ready to break it. You're ready to walk out on it. You're ready to leave because you don't understand the value of what it means to be in a covenant, right? So when we talk about covenant, we're talking about not only a commitment between a man and a woman, but a commitment with God.
Mm-hmm.
And we should also highlight that just like a contract, there are certain things that are involved in a contract that are also involved in a covenant. But a covenant has unlimited liability versus a contract, which has limited liability. For instance, when you go into a contract, you have what's called the promise, and then you have what's called terms, right? So what I mean by that is I'm going to promise to offer you a service based on these terms.
Mm-hmm.
And you promise to receive the service I offer based on these terms, right? And so our agreement, because we have to come into an agreement, is based on terms. And terms could be, based on how long something is going to last. So if you're going out for a car loan, typically, you might get a car loan that lasts 4, 5, 6 years, right? Those are considered the terms of the loan. And there's a certain amount you have to pay for that loan, right? And that's part of the terms. And so when you think about a contract, you're looking at, okay, we made an agreement and our agreement is based on these terms. The same thing with a covenant. When you go into a covenant, you also make an agreement or you make a promise. You promise to be faithful.
Mm-hmm.
You promise your fidelity. You promise to be committed. You promise to love, right? So you make all these promises, and then you also have to abide by the terms of the agreement. And so the terms of the agreement are in sickness and health, richer or poorer, better or worse, right? Till death do us part,
Till death do us part.
right?
Yeah.
Those are the terms.
Those are the terms.
So a contract and a covenant, there are similarities. However, we've already established that there isn't an end to the marriage covenant unless it's death or supposedly death versus a contract where it could either end with the end of the term ends or you break it.
Oh, that's good. Or you break it. And that or you break it that will give you an out will be what? Infidelity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And abuse, right? Those are two ways that you can break the covenant, right? The marriage covenant. Those are the two ways. But a lot of times, I think that when things get hard with even male or female, they are we can be quick to say, I want out. I mean, sometimes you want out because you think that, okay, the grass may be greener on the other side, or I'm not going to go through this if I go get somebody else. They're not going to put me through this, and maybe not. But these days and times that we're living in, a lot of times people don't want to put the work into the covenant. They don't want to put the work. So that's why it's so easy a lot of times to come out of the covenant, the marriage covenant, because sometimes the work gets too hard. But marriage is work. You got to go in knowing that we got this marriage covenant, and we got it I got it with my spouse, but I also have it with God. And so when things get tough, I can't just take the out. You got to put in the work.
That's right.
Right? You got to put in the work. And sometimes people don't want the work. Yeah. They don't want to work.
But part of that is because they look at it as a partnership.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's more than that.
It's more than a partnership.
People walk away from partnerships all the time.
All the time.
All the time. And so, the Bible says that the two shall become one.
Yes.
And so what that means is that there is a oneness of body and spirit that actually takes place when we stand before God, because he then inserts himself into that relationship,
Right.
right? And as long as he's in it, as long as we keep him in it,
As long as we keep him in it.
it's hard to walk away from that. You know,
It should be hard to walk away
well,
from.
one of the things we talked about, and you wanted to like look at what you wanted to talk about grace and the role that grace plays in a marriage covenant, in a marriage in general, right?
Right.
Because we understand, for us, we define grace by two things. We define grace not only as God's unmerited favor, but we also define it as a divine enablement to do whatever he's purposed you to do. And so when we talk about grace, we'll often say, people say, y'all been married for 22 years almost. What's the secret? And we had to tell them it's God's grace. It's the grace of God, right? Because we could find ourselves in any type of situation.
Any type of situation. We're not exempt.
We're not exempt.
We're not exempt from any problems. We're not exempt from divorce. We're not exempt from spousal abuse. We are not exempt from anything, any of that. But it is by the grace of God that we have had the marriage that we have had. It is by the grace of God that we have chosen to be committed to one another. It's by the grace of God that we have not stepped out on one another. It's nothing that we have done. We choose to be committed. That's something we choose to do. We have to choose that every day to be with each other. We choose each other. I choose to be committed to you. I choose to be with one man. I make that decision every day. But it's still God's grace that when we go out, that when I may see somebody, or somebody may see me, or whatever. Somebody may, okay. So what was this? So the other day, 2 weeks ago, see, I'm trying to be serious. 2 weeks ago.
All right, go ahead. Tell people the story.
I was shopping for, I was decorating the house. So I've been shopping. And so I was getting in my car, and it was this man, and he came up, and he was driving, and he was looking at me, and I'm like, first of all, who is he looking at? Because when you marry, we not blind, and we know that people look at us as well, blind. Right? But at the same time, he was like, I just couldn't keep my eyes off of you. He was like, I couldn't keep my eyes off of you. Then he came to the car, and I'm like. He says, but then I saw your ring, and I saw that you were married. I said, yes, I am happily married. I made a decision. I made a choice, because it was in that moment that I could have said, we could have had a disagreement, but it was in that moment that I could have used that opportunity to say, hey, yeah, we having problems right now. And we weren't, but I'm just saying, I made a choice, because I really could have fallen into the temptation of this man, another man, checking me out. But the good thing is that my man checks me out. So I don't have to desire that from another man, because you check me out all the time.
I do.
You check me out all the time.
Just sexy self.
Yeah. Try to keep it sexy for you. But in that, I could have fallen. But that's the grace. That's the grace. God's divine enablement. He enables me to stay faithful to you. And I'm grateful for that. We are grateful for that, because we see things happening and, happening with other people, and it saddens us, at times, but we say, sweetie, that could have been us. That could be us.
Yeah, I agree. It could be us, but that's when we have to dig in even more and intentionally show attention to our marriage. Like, we got to be extremely intentional about every aspect of our marriage. So when it comes to communication, I think we've gotten better at being more intentional about talking about certain things. When it comes to intimacy, I think there are some areas we've gotten better at. Some areas we could still work on and getting better at. But it's about being intentional in every area, right?
Right.
So that we don't let those cracks become gaps, right? We start filling them in when we notice them. The Bible says it's the small foxes that destroy the vine, right? It's those little things that you let slide that you don't pay any attention to that will cause your house to collapse, right?
Yeah.
Over a period of time. And so, for me, I was sitting here and I was laughing because I like to hear these stories that you that you tell. And I'm glad you feel good, comfortable coming home sharing that stuff with me.
Yeah, because I get a kick out of it.
I don't come home. I don't feel comfortable coming home sharing that stuff with you. I don't. Like, if somebody tried to holler at me, I wouldn't come home and be like, "Yeah, sweetie, somebody tried to holler at me."
Oh, well, I mean, that's...
But the reason I do that is because of our history. Like, I don't want to put you in a place where you even thinking that I'm out there possibly trying to talk to somebody. So I'd rather leave it at that. If somebody try to holler, yeah, I ain't trying to holler. I'm married, and that's it. And I'm on to the next thing. It's not even it's not anything that lingers past that moment. And so I probably could get better at having that type of conversation with you. I don't know. That's something we may have to talk a little bit more about, because I would, number one, I wouldn't want you to feel uncomfortable, but at the same time, I want you to be certain that you don't have anything to worry about. So if that's a conversation you feel comfortable having with me, then maybe I'll change that practice. But like you said, you can say it to me, but that's because it's not going.
Right, because I call you and I'm calling you and I'm joking like this.
Yeah.
Look what happened. And the truth is, like, because when I'm out, I'm not looking for nobody, and I'm not looking for nobody to be looking for me. So when things like that happen, it cracks me up, because I'm like, oh,
because you still got it.
I'm like, I still got it, boy. I still got it. I still got it. So
But
that's
what
my
I'm saying.
purpose.
Right. Not that you would call to try to make me jealous or entice me in any way.
No, because we don't. That's not us.
But that's what I'm saying. I don't, because you know me, like, if I call him and said this, he's not gonna be home thinking like, where's she at? Who's she talking to? Who rolling up on her car? Like, because I'm not that type of person.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I called you up like, yeah, sweetie, somebody, this girl just walked up to my car trying to talk to me.
Well, you've never done that. I'm the only one who has ever done that. So you can just keep it to yourself, because I don't particularly
see.
I mean, I don't particularly need to know. So I mean, I trust you. I know that when you are out, I believe that you're being faithful to me, because I know that you honor God, you honor your covenant with God, you honor your covenant with me. So I don't particularly worry about that. But there are times that the enemy will try to come in and will try to insert a thought in your head, in my head. But I'm thankful, because I did that the other day. I don't have to necessarily say what it was about, but I know that I did it the other day, because sometimes if we give the enemy a little crack, right, he'll try to make that opening a little bigger. So what I usually try to do is, if I'm feeling a certain kind of way, I usually come to you and I'll tell you how I'm feeling. Because if I marinate on that feeling, it gets bigger. And that's giving the enemy more opportunity to cause more doubt and to have me feel a certain kind of way and to treat you a certain kind of way. So I'm quick to come and tell you this is how I'm feeling. This is why I've been acting crazy, because I've been having these thoughts. Because I know that we are committed to our marriage and our covenant. I feel free to do that. And I know that when I do that, I make a spectacle of the enemy, because he wants to instill doubt in I don't know, in women and men, I'm sure, as well. But when we show him like, hey, I get to go to my husband and tell my husband how I feel. I don't allow you to make this crack any bigger than what it is. So I'm grateful that I can do that. And I feel free when I do that.
Yeah. And that's funny because we were saying that, God has to be the center of your covenant, right? He has to be the center of your relationship. And like you just said, one of the reasons you come to me is because you don't want to give the enemy any place or room to create any doubt or insecurity. And so I was just sitting here thinking, and I wasn't planning on doing this, but since we talking, I recently told you about a dream I had, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it safe for me to?
Safe.
Okay, all right. So I had this dream, and I was sitting in my car, or a car. It wasn't necessarily my car, but I was sitting in the car behind the driver's side, and Shontae was on the passenger side. And so we're in the car and we're talking, and as we're talking, she's telling me it's just not working. It's just not working, right? It's just not working. And so I'm sitting there, I'm trying to get out of her more information. Like, what do you mean it's not working? Please shed some light on what you mean by it's not working. And so as I'm sitting there, I hear a knock on the driver's side window, and I turn and look, and it's a guy standing there. His name is Will, right? And I rolled down the window, and he's like, Shontae, come on, let's go. I'm like, what? What? Like, oh my goodness, what is going on? And so immediately I wake up, because anytime I have a dream like that's one way God knows we're gonna have a conversation, because I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna pray like, God, what is going on? Because stuff like that wakes me up out of my sleep, because I don't like the feeling of not being safe in our marriage, right? And so I wake up and I get up out the bed, and anytime I have a dream like that, that's how God
got me in the
that's how God get me to pray.
I'm always doing something in a dream.
That's how me and him, we had some of them conversations, because I'm like, all right, Father, I need to pray. And so I got up and I went down to my office, and I started praying, and I was down there praying for a while, and I prayed until I felt better, right? And initially that was my reason for praying, because I didn't like how I felt in that dream. That's why I woke up, and I prayed until I felt better. And as I was driving to work later that day, the Holy Spirit began to shed some light on the dream. And what I realized was that I was you and God was me. And so here I am, I'm sitting in the car with God, right? God's in the driver's seat. I'm in the passenger seat. I'm telling God that it's not working. And so the dude that walks up and knocks on the window, his name is Will. And so what it showed me was that I'm telling God it's not working. That's because my will is on the outside. My will wants me to roll with him versus me being committed to this relationship that I'm in.
Woo! That's so good.
Right?
I'm sorry.
And so it had to bring me back to center.
That was so good.
Like, God is my focus. And I have to be willing to let go of my will.
Yes.
To focus on my relationship with him. And so, you know, it really opened my eyes, and it got me back to a place where I'm like, man, I need to spend more time focusing on him, because what I realized, if I'm focused on him and I'm in a place where I'm submitting my will and my intentions and my emotions, where I'm submitting all that to him, then there's no way I'm not going to treat you the way you're supposed to be treated. There's no way I'm not going to love you the way you're supposed to be loved. There's no way I'm not going to commit myself to you faithfully, right? And to do all those things that we said we would do in our vows. There's no way I'm not going to do that if he is the center of my life and of my relationship.
Amen.
And so I was like,
that was
man,
so
that's crazy.
Good.
And so normally I wouldn't tell you, you know, I just let you know I had a dream, right? I'd be like, look, I had a dream.
The dream, and he gave you the interpretation of it.
That so that was eye opening for me, because, you know, sometimes we get to a place where, and now we getting, you know, a little spiritual, but sometimes we get to a place where, you know, you're walking with God, but things aren't going the way you think they should, right? There's a ton of adversity that you may be facing. You know, it could be financial, it could be emotional, it could be sexual
intimacy.
It could be you know, whatever. A ton of adversity, like in your marriage, in your family, on your job, in your business,
yes,
in your body, right? There could be many things you come up against, and you tell God, like, Father, I've been walking with you, but I'm going through this situation and things are just not working out for me, and I'm ready to walk away. And so sometimes you have to be reminded that he said, I will love you and never leave you or forsake you. And so those are the same things I try to echo to you, is that I will love you, never leave you or forsake you.
And I believe that. I believe that with everything in me. That's why whenever I get an opportunity to express my feelings and be open and honest, because I know with those little foxes, right? Those little foxes that'll try to creep in. I know that if I don't address them, that it can get worse and it can grow. So I don't want a situation that is something small to begin to grow bigger and bigger and bigger. I don't want that. So I know how, like, let me nip this in the bud right now. Let me tell him how I'm feeling, because if I don't, it's just going to grow and it's going to linger and it's going to probably get worse. And because I trust you and I honor my covenant with you, that means I don't want to break the covenant. I don't want anything to break our covenant. And little things like that can break a covenant, even if it's small, but they begin to be small, but then they grow to be big. And it's like, okay, you got this one thought, okay, that you don't bring into captivity. And then you let something else come in and you don't bring it into captivity. And then you let another thing come in and you don't bring it into captivity. It gets bigger and it gets bigger and it gets bigger. So if I bring that thought into captivity, I take back my control. If I come back to you and I tell you this is how I'm feeling, I take back my control, because we will lose control with the thoughts that we don't bring into captivity. And so that's what I refuse to do, because I honor my covenant with you. I love being married to you. I love being your wife. I love all of that. But if I allow those things to linger and not bring them into captivity, because I know me, it's going to get bigger and it's going to be worse. And then I would be back in a place that I was, when we first got married. And I don't want to be back in that place, because I trust you and I know that you love me and you want the best for me. And you want to be you want to be in that good place. So I don't want to think something bad of you that I know that the enemy is just trying to put a thought into my head. I know this. So that's why I like to address it immediately. Even for me, like 1-2 days, that's immediately. Some people let stuff grow weeks and weeks and weeks and years and years and years until everything is just explode. And then here you got this big problem. Now you want a divorce. So I don't want that to be my testimony.
Yeah. I made up my mind about something like that too, because, in the beginning, if you cook something and I didn't like it, I wouldn't say nothing about it. Then I had to eat it for 2-3 years. Now I'll let you know. I just didn't answer. I wasn't feeling that.
And he do. You really do.
So that means I only had to eat it once. Nah, I'm just playing.
No, you do tell me.
Yeah, I know.
Say,
I'm just saying. I made light of it, but I'm just being, a bit facetious.
Yes.
But, little things like that. Like, people will complain about food after 10 years. Like, you still I don't want this no more. Don't fix it. And you've been eating it the last 10 years. What do you mean you don't like it?
You've been eating the last 10 years.
Right. No, I didn't like it from the beginning, and I still don't like it. But you didn't say anything in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And because you didn't say anything, that's why you've been eating it for 10 years. Now, just imagine if you said it 10 years ago, we would have found something else that maybe you liked that you could eat. So I've learned my lesson. I mean, it's something small, but it's a part of communication. And it's not that I have to say something hurtful. I say, sweetie, I would,
Because I know you never do anything. You have never done anything to intentionally hurt me. We work hard to do that.
We do. I know.
We work hard.
I was trying to be funny.
I know you are.
But but the point was small things like that. And it could be small.
It could be very small.
Now, that's not to say people don't have big issues.
Right.
But some of the small things that we hold on to. That eventually grow and fester, that drive a wedge in our relationships. We have to be mindful to identify those things early on and to attack them. Like, to not give them any place in our relationships, in our marriages. Because if we do that, we create not only a safe space, but we create an area for peace. That's what we want in our relationships, right?
Peace, yes.
We want to have a peaceful household. Yes. And so, we just imagine like the peace we could have if we are willing to talk about the small things. And to do it early.
Address it early, knock it out, and you can move on to something else.
Yeah.
Because something else gonna come.
Absolutely.
So let's just deal with this. And whenever that something else comes, we'll be able to knock that out as well. And as long as we have God in the center of our marriage, there is nothing that we can't get through. And I believe that. There is absolutely nothing that we can't get through with God in the center.
So we're going to wrap it up with that. I think that's a good place to wrap it up. There's nothing we can do if we keep God in the center of our marriage, of
Yep.
our
And
relationship.
keep our sacred covenant with God and each other. Absolutely.
If you haven't clicked that subscribe, now is a great time to do it. Like it, share it, join our family. We hope we didn't bore you with our stories,
With our love.
our laughter, our love.
Yes.
This is Ritual Poor Marriage Podcast. Be blessed.
Peace.